How much can you make growing tomatoes in Jamaica? In this video, I'll tell you all you need to know about growing this crop from start to finish and how much you can expect to earn. Tomato plants are tender warm season crops that grows well in a location where they get full sun. Tomatoes will not grow well in cold climates, which is not an issue in Jamaica as we have sunshine all year round. Tomatoes take 60 days to more than 100 days to harvest after transplanting seedlings, depending on the variety, and there are over 10,000 varieties and they can either be determinate or indeterminate. Determinate tomato plants are short in height and usually grow up to 5 feet tall and are easier to handle and care for. They are usually grown outdoors in the fields. While indeterminate tomato plants behave more vine-like and can grow up to 10 feet tall or sometimes even taller. They take more time to handle and care for and are mostly grown in large greenhouses on a commercial scale. Now, before we start the cultivation of a crop of tomato, you have to take into account marketing of the crop. Who are your prospective consumers and how are you going to reach them? You don't want to spend thousands of dollars on a crop and having to dump it because you have nowhere to sell it to. You will also need to look at what other farms are growing to ensure your crop is not ready when theirs are, because when farmers plant the same crop and harvest at the same time, it can result in a glut of produce on the market, which will result in very low prices for your product or result in you not being able to sell anything at all. You can also seek out from stores and nurseries what seeds or seedlings they are currently selling the most of. If you find that they are selling a lot of tomato seeds and seedlings, it might not be wise to cultivate a crop of tomato. You must also try to plant or grow for a season when there is a high demand for the crop. Tomato prices tend to increase during the festive season and the winter tourist season around Christmas time due to the high demand and also due to shortages caused by the wet season, which is from June to November. Tomatoes do not like to be wet for long, and too much wet weather during the growing season can result in diseases that result in the destruction of tomato crops, hence the hike in prices during the festive season. Now, what do you need to produce a crop of tomato? Firstly, you need land, good arable land. You will need labor to carry out the work. You will need capital to fund your project and good management. You will also need seeds or seedlings and a good irrigation setup to supply your plants with a consistent amount of water. Now, with the selection of seeds, you will have to choose a variety that is resistant to diseases that are prevalent in your area. One such disease that affects tomato and reduces their yield in Jamaica is the Gemini virus disease, which causes yellow leaf curl, also known as Jerry curl virus by local farmers, which can result in total crop loss. So, you will have to choose varieties that are resistant to these diseases. One of the most popular and disease-resistant variety of tomatoes grown in Jamaica is the UC82B, which has good vigor and can resist a lot of tomato diseases and pests. It is resistant to nematode, fusarium wilt, verticillium wilt, tomato yellow leaf curl virus, also known as Jerry curl virus locally, and is also resistant to mosaic virus. The UC82B variety is one of the most commonly grown tomato varieties on the island, and it is referred to as the plummy tomato locally and is readily available in farm stores throughout the island. Another input you have to consider is pesticide and fungicide, whether it is organic or synthetic. Pesticides you will need are mostly insecticides and herbicides. You will need insecticides to control insects such as whiteflies and thrips, and herbicide to kill or inhibit the growth of unwanted weeds. Next input you will need is fertilizer, which is needed to provide your plants with nutrients they need to grow. The main nutrients that all plants need to grow are called macronutrients or the basic plant nutrients: nitrogen, phosphorus, and potassium. Now, let's look at how much you can make growing an acre of tomato crop in Jamaica. Let's say we have to lease our acre of land. How much will it cost us to lease land in Jamaica? Good farmland in Jamaica leases for about $10,000 per acre per year, so that's our first expense, $10,000 to lease 1 acre. Next is seed selection. You can either buy your tomato seedlings from a nursery or you can set up your own nursery and start your own seedlings, which would be less expensive but will take more time than just buying. For 1 acre of land, you will need 2 ounces of tomato seed, which will cost you about $150 per ounce, so that's about $300. Prices will vary depending on the variety, and you will also need seedling trays to start your seedling. For 1 acre of tomato, you will need about 4,000 seedlings, so you will need 14 seedling trays which have 288 cells at $312.50 per tray. That's $4,375. Now that we have our seedlings going, next is land preparation. The land should be cleared of all unwanted weed and debris and plowed. To clear the land of weed, we will use a herbicide called glyphosate. The reason for using glyphosate is because it's an extremely important tool for weed control in many production systems, because it is highly effective on many weed species and very cost effective. It will take about 1 to 2 liters of glyphosate to burn or spray 1 acre of land, applied with 12 to 24 gallons of water. Always read the label of any chemicals that you use and follow its instruction and wear proper PPE when handling chemicals. 2 liters of glyphosate costs $3,580.52. Now after the land has been sprayed and the weeds are dead, it's time to plow the land, and to plow the land you have 2 options. Either you're going to plow by manpower or you're going to use machinery, that is a tractor. In this example, we use a tractor as it's more effective and does the work faster. For a tractor to plow the land, it will cost between $7,500 to $20,000. So let's say we pay the tractor about $18,000 to get the land plow and harrow. Now that our land is prepared, it's time to set up our irrigation system. There are different types of irrigation systems such as drip irrigation, irrigation sprinkler, center pivot irrigation, and surface irrigation. In Jamaica, the most popular irrigation systems are drip irrigation and irrigation sprinkler. In the drip irrigation system, water is supplied directly to the plant's root zone through drip hoses. And for the irrigation sprinkler, water is applied in a manner that's similar to rainfall through a network of pumps, valves, pipes, and sprinklers. The best irrigation system for growing tomatoes is the drip system, because using the sprinkler method will result in tomato plants' leaves getting wet, which can result in diseases such as early and late blight. If using a sprinkler system, it's best to water plants early in the morning so the leaves can dry off during the day, thus reducing chances of diseases. For your irrigation setup, you will also need a water tank to store water and to connect to your drip irrigation kit. This is a one-time cost, and this setup can last for several years. For your tank and drip irrigation system, it will cost you about $62,630.65 for a 1,000-gallon black water tank, and for the drip kit setup, it will cost about $150,000. Now that we have done our land prep and irrigation setup, it's time to plant our tomato seedlings. To do this, we are going to need manpower to plant and care for our plants throughout the growing season. Tomatoes require a large amount of labor, and it will require about 650 hours of labor to grow 1 acre of tomato. So at $500 per hour, labor will cost you $325,000 throughout the entire growing season. For fertilizing of the crop, you can use organic fertilizers such as manure or compost if it's available, or artificial fertilizer, and every field will require different amounts of fertilizer depending on the amount or type of nutrients that are present in the soil. So it will be a good idea to get a soil test done as to make the right decision on fertilizing your crops. For tomatoes, it is recommended to use 225 pounds of potassium, 150 pounds of phosphorus, and 100 pounds of nitrogen per acre. At $5,100 per 50-pound bags of fertilizer, your fertilizer cost for 1 acre is $48,450. Now we will look at irrigating an acre of tomato through drip irrigation. It is important to irrigate at an appropriate rate, as excessive irrigation can result in the leaching of crop nutrients from the root zone and can affect growth rate. The amount of water required for 1 acre will depend on the season, how wet or how dry it is. Tomatoes require a constant supply of moisture during the growing season and will require 214 to 706,000 gallons of water per season to produce a high-yielding crop. Growing tomatoes, you will encounter pest problems. Common pests of tomatoes are tomato fruit worm, aphids, cutworms, leaf miners, and whiteflies. These pests can be controlled with different pesticides that are approved and available on the market. You can expect to spend at least $36,000 on pesticide and fungicide. Now let's look at how much our crop of tomato will produce and make. With 1 acre of tomato consisting of about 4,000 plants, you can expect a yield of 30,000 pounds of tomato throughout the harvesting season. At the moment, tomato sells at about $50 to $80 per pound at the farm gate. So let's say we are able to sell ours at $60 per pound. That's $60 times 30,000 pounds, which gives a revenue of 1,800,000 Jamaican dollars. Let's look at our expenses and see if we are able to make a profit growing 1 acre of tomatoes. This is a list of our expenses. To lease 1 acre of land, that's $10,000 per year. We need 2 ounces of seeds, which is $300. Seedling trays cost $4,375. 2 liters of glyphosate costs $3,580.52. Plowing and harrowing of the land $18,000. A 1,000 gallon black water tank $62,630.65. Irrigation kit and installation $150,000. Labor for entire season $325,000. Fertilizer costs $48,450. Insecticide and fungicide $36,000. Our total expense is $658,336.17. So our profit is our revenue minus expenses, $1,800,000 minus $658,336.17. which gives us $1,141,663.83. Now, different variables will result in different production cost and output. This breakdown is meant to be very simple, so persons interested could get a better understanding on growing this crop. Please subscribe, leave a comment and a like, and suggest what video you want to see next.